Today we're talking homelessness in Charlotte, the secession of Ballantyne, Cam Newton, and more. I'm Carlton Hargrove, and this is 282. All right. Welcome to 282. Welcome to another episode of the show. This is actually our third episode. If you watched the first two, they were in beta. And we're actually still in beta. Because, like I said last time, we're in beta and we're trying to get better. That was my little bit of humor, attempted humor.
All right.
Wasn't that great?
Work with that.
But we're trying to get better. And if you have any suggestions on how to improve the show, please go to Twitter and shoot us a message at 282TV. Or you can mark your messages with the hashtag 282TV. Either way, we'll see it. Speaking of Twitter, if you have any comments on how to make Charlotte a better place in 2012, send it to us throughout the show. We're streaming live. Send us the comments, and near the end of the show, we'll try to fit some of those comments in, time permitting. So let's just get right to the show. We've got a great panel of guests, as usual. I'm going to introduce everybody. Starting on the end, we have Larry Shaheen, and he is the host of the State of Mecklenburg TV show. He's also a partner at Carolina Political Consulting.
Yes.
All right. And next up, we have Terry DeBoo, who does lots of stuff, but we're going to keep it simple. She's a member of the Chamber, Charlotte Chamber, okay? And we also have the illustrious Jack Brayboy, who is the host of Charlotte Small Business Spotlight here on TVI.
Yes.
So thank you guys for joining us. We're going to talk about a lot of
Nice
great
to be
topics today. It's going to be an exciting show. I hope that we don't fight. If we do,
No
you can
fight.
jump in the middle.
TV, right? That's right.
So up first, let's jump right into the conversation. We're going to talk about homelessness in Charlotte. Now, everybody knows, if you ever walk through Uptown or anything like that, you know that homelessness is a pervasive problem. Now, it popped into the headlines again on January 3rd with the premiere of the film Souls of Our Neighbors, which actually is going to air on TVI in February, I think that is. But the film is about affordable housing and homelessness. And along with the debut of the film, it also coincided with the launch of this new initiative called A Year of Our Neighbors, which is a kind of a multi-pronged initiative with political people, nonprofits, all kind of people getting together to have a concerted effort to eradicate homelessness. Okay. Now, in the last 5 years, homelessness actually has become worse. People were working on it to make it better, but it actually got worse. And so now we are faced with homelessness as the 2012 Democratic Convention nears. And the thing I want to ask you guys, with all that set up, I want to ask you, what do you think are the chances of us actually eradicating homelessness or even decreasing it significantly, especially in time for the 2012 DNC? Let's start with you, Larry.
Okay.
What do you think?
Well, considering that homelessness has been and it's not a problem. I think it's a
You don't think homelessness
No.
is a problem?
No. It's not that I don't think it's a problem. I think it's a
Okay.
concern.
Okay.
But to say that it's a problem is something that says that we don't want these folks or we don't care about these folks. We actually do. And as a Catholic, you've got a lot of folks who feel it's a Christian duty to make sure that you take care of those who have fallen on hard times. Now, the issue that I see, first of all, as a Republican, and second of all, as someone who wishes to see more limited government, is the fact that government's role is not necessarily to make sure that, to give out taxpayer money to make sure that we deal with this issue. One of the things that government can do, and one of the things that we can do to help limit homelessness, is help with the actual affordable housing issue. And one of the ways we can do that is by reducing regulations on builders. For example, in District 4, District 3, District 2, and District 1 of the Charlotte City Council, you have a lot of regulations on what type of apartment housing and what type of single-family homes can be built. Say, for example, if you were to build a residential apartment complex, you have to have a certain type of siding, a certain type of plumbing, and a certain type of building. If you were to limit those and allow individuals to actually build products that were more affordable, as opposed to having to build products that perhaps belong in a more high-priced setting, you would be able to have units that are affordable for individuals who are possibly living on a less and lower income. But to say that the Charlotte City Council and Mecklenburg County Board of Commissioners' its job is to eradicate homelessness, I think that's irresponsible. I think it's more responsible to say that it's you as an individual, not only through your church groups and your nonprofits, to work that way. To lay the problem at the feet of the governments is irresponsible to the taxpayers of Charlotte.
Now you dropped a lot of controversy, so I'm not even going to address it. I'm gonna go to Terry next. I want to get everybody to chime in on this first. Okay, so Terry, what do you think? Eradicating homelessness.
I don't know that we're ever going to eradicate homelessness. I mean,
Okay.
there's a certain level or a certain percentage of the population that you could give them a home, and I don't necessarily know that they're stable enough to be able to stay in a home. I think what we're seeing right now is a trend of people that shouldn't be or wouldn't be homeless if they had affordable housing. I think affordable housing is the answer. I don't know that we're going to eradicate it before 2012 because we're on an upswing. We just did a morning breakfast for my Rotary did for Christmas, and it was stunning to most of the people there in the room that it's not people that are homeless that you would suspect. It's families. It's people that have been hit with this economy. And I think that there does need to be more affordable homes available here in Charlotte. But I disagree with, I disagree that we should make our materials less valuable on the building of these homes. I think quite the contrary. If you make it a home that is symbiotic with its neighborhood, it will be easier for the owners to keep it up and keep it a nicer property. Because I think that's what the biggest fear of when you say affordable housing. I think people consider it to be a HUD-owned or public housing, and that's not what affordable housing is.
Okay. All right. Jack, chime in.
He's already, he wants his 30
I
seconds.
know.
Already.
That's why I want you to
I can
chime
see that
in
already,
first,
so
right?
I want to get something in real quick because I can see
Okay, no, go ahead, man.
this is going to be fun. I think it part and parcel comes down to economic issues as well. Because if people don't have a job, even affordable housing, they won't be able to afford.
Absolutely.
I mean, that's kind of where I sit on this thing. So at some point, and maybe demographically, is there a way to to establish who are those who are in most need of this opportunity, and then figure out how to get them gainfully employed. And that means bringing in, like you said, nonprofits, other partners such as Goodwill, United Way, whoever can kind of take the lead in terms of we're going to help educate, train people in order to give them the tools necessary to become desirable employees. Therefore, they can earn a paycheck. Therefore, they can afford even the affordable housing.
Right.
That's kind of where I think it even goes a step further. People have to have money in order to spend it, and they need to be gainfully employed in order to even get the opportunity to approach somebody for affordable housing.
Right.
Larry.
And Terry,
Drop another bomb, Larry.
and with all due respect, Terry, before forming Carolina Political Consulting, I was an associate at a development firm, and one of the biggest obstacles to any type of development, especially off of Wilkinson Boulevard or off of Beatty's Ford, is the fact that you've got so much regulation as to what goes into those homes, as to what kind of siding is, and Michael Barnes is one of the worst offenders. Michael Barnes loves to tell developers that they have to have nicer siding, more brick on that development. That's not what's supposed to go there. I mean, no offense to that neighborhood, no offense to the people in the neighborhood. I'm not saying you don't deserve nice homes or nice areas, but if the market will not bear the rent rates that come along with the sunk cost of building that development, you can't put it there and you can't force it there. You have to let the market slowly build itself up, and then once that happens, you'll have affordable housing alongside more nicer homes that are going to be able to fit the neighborhood model and allow those individuals who are going to be getting jobs through UNCC or CPCC after being re-educated and placed into employment. They're going to be able to afford it not only in a neighborhood where they can live and work and play, but they're going to be able to work within that neighborhood and see more affordable living, not just in Charlotte, but in the entire Mecklenburg County area.
Well, let me just correct a little bit. And maybe my assumption was that you were talking about using lesser materials and less
Lowering the standards.
lowering the
No,
standards.
no,
I
no,
wasn't.
no, no.
I misunderstood that you were talking about lowering the standards, because I agree that our zoning is a huge impediment for
Yes.
builders, and I think until you've got the city and the county on the same page as far as inspections and getting that, make it an easier process for builders, I think that you're going to have a problem there. But I think less government is the best way to go.
Agreed.
And I do not think that we should be telling builders what they should be putting in as far as affordable housing,
Agreed.
except for we're sitting at a situation right now where you would think that under normal circumstances, the economy would take care of itself. The supply and demand would take care of itself. But you've got so many people here that are sitting with homes they can't sell, that are coming to our community thinking that we're going to be the first ones to turn it around on an economic development level, and they are eating up the rental properties, and that's causing the rental properties to skyrocket in cost. So there is less affordable rental units for the people that are just our median income. When you talked about that the upcoming
DNC.
Upcoming neighborhood movie.
The Year of Our Neighborhood.
That's
Souls
it.
of Our- okay.
Souls. That's it.
Souls
I'm
of
sorry,
Our
Souls.
Neighborhood, okay.
That really addresses people that are just in a lower income or median income range. That has anything to do with homelessness, but even that is not an offer. I think that we really need to look at the affordable housing and where it's placed. Just not so much homeless, but that would help the homeless situation.
Let me take the focus off of affordable housing, and we'll get back to that in a second when we talk about Ballantyne. But I worked at a homeless shelter for 3 years in Atlanta, and I was a resident manager and actually lived with them and on a daily basis. And one of the things that I found out from working in a homeless shelter was that homelessness is actually the result of a lot of problems.
Yes.
Right.
Most of the people that lived in those shelters, 90% of them didn't graduate from high school. The majority of them had a disease, whether it be HIV, tuberculosis, hepatitis C.
Right.
Most of them had children
Right.
out of wedlock. They didn't have any kind of training skills, and they didn't have a support base. Because most of us, a lot of people say, you're one paycheck away from homelessness, but we have a support base. Most of us have friends and family, but these people have burned through all their friends and family.
Right.
So the last straw, the last result is homelessness.
Right.
Now the question is, how do you address all those other things so that we don't have people then left without that, safety net?
And that's the question. That's the ultimate question is what role should the public sector play? What role should the private sector play? And the question always falls that because the public sector is involved in that, especially the county commission, that people go and ask them for those funds. I think it takes a concerted effort on the part of private citizens, the business community, as well as individuals who are involved in nonprofits to work together to create a solution. For example, the Charlotte City Partners just recently released a program to limit folks, to ask folks not to give money to those.
Right.
To the
I've
homeless.
seen the signs downtown.
The
Right,
cash
right.
does not equal change.
Do not feed the
Do not feed the
homeless.
homeless. I think that's an unfortunate way to go, because when you're talking about helping those people, it's not the cash that's going to happen. It's going to be the individuals actually reaching out through the religious community, through the nonprofit community, as private citizens, to help make sure that those individuals are taken care of. Discouraging taking care of these individuals in any fashion is a negative and it should not occur.
The only problem too, and Jack, I want to get your comment about this, is if we don't donate, if we don't have city funds and county funds going toward getting rid of this problem, we're going to pay for it on the other end. We're going to pay for them in jail, or we're going to pay for them at a hospital. We're going to pay some way. So do we pay up front or do we pay on the back end?
You got to pay on the front end.
Okay.
You got to pay on the front end, and that's where it comes down to more education, improving infrastructure in such a way that people can, get access. I mean, just where I would love to talk to homeless people and say, what is it that you are lacking that is keeping you from getting what you need in terms of a home? I mean, again, to your point, so a lot of these people aren't what you would consider to be your stereotypical, homeless folks, but talk to them. I'm sure most people don't want a handout.
Right.
But they want a hand.
Exactly.
I know that
They want a
sounds
hand up as
cliche.
opposed to a hand
Right,
down.
right. They need a push. They need to be able to say, hey, there's some folks out here who literally do care about us, and not say, we can't stand on the street on this side of the corner and get a meal today. We've got to go somewhere else. Where do they all go when they took down the stuff out the whole West Boulevard section out there, Boulevard Homes? That place has been out there for 30 years. Where'd all those people go?
Right.
Are some of them on the street now?
I'm going to jump in. I think we have a comment from someone on Twitter. Jarvis, what are they saying out there
Yes,
in the
one of our-
Twitterverse?
One of our viewers has an interesting, if not facetious, take on how to address homelessness. At Wolf Eyes says, I say give the homeless free red tents and let all be aware at DNC time. Back to you, Carlton.
Well, I made the
Great
comment.
comment at Wolf Eyes. I like that
Talked a little
name
bit
too.
about
that
that.
I have to
Before
say
the show.
that there was a lot of press a few years back about feeding the homeless at the guardrail, and people were just all Twitter about how we really shouldn't be feeding them in public and taking care of them in public. But we allow people to pitch tents at our government center
Right.
and voice their opinion, although I don't know what their opinion is because they haven't voiced it as well as they should, quite frankly. I say we just put some tents out there and let's move our homeless in, give them somewhere to stay. They've got a police car watching them overnight. I think it works out really well. And from what I understand, and I don't think I'm wrong, I don't think they're staying there all night long. I bet you we go knocking on tents at 3 a.m. and they're a little empty.
Oh boy, Occupy people.
Wake up.
Terry the
Well, they're all
we
sitting
could
there with their
really have some-
iPads.
we could really have some fun
They all
with
have
that one.
iPads and PDAs from somebody's trust fund, so they should be able to give us
Maybe
a little
rent a
comment
tent?
right now. Rent. I think they should let us know. Maybe they should move some people in with them and take care of them.
Now, one last thing I will say about homelessness. Do you think, and if this happens, what will we do? Do you think we'll ever get to the point that they got to in Atlanta where come time for the Olympics, they give them a bus pass to Alabama? Are we going to get to that point, Jack? Just to
No,
look good
because
in front of the world?
they still have to. Well, you never know. It depends on how much money they've raised by then. maybe they've got a bus pass fund.
Okay.
But you know what though? This is
We're not advocating for
we're
this.
not advocating by any
It
means.
happened.
By any
This
means.
happened in Atlanta.
But that said,
I don't want it to
that
happen
said, every major city has this problem, and perhaps perhaps find out what Denver did.
Yeah.
Like I say, perhaps find out what Atlanta, some of these other cities have done. I mean, Charlotte's problem is what it is in and of Charlotte, but. I mean, I lived in Philadelphia for a long, long time. I guarantee you, the homelessness situation in the urban, the big urban areas,
Yeah.
Charlotte is dwarfed by what those
Right.
cities have.
We have
So-
7,000 homeless people,
Right.
6,000 of which are children. I mean, these are the
Sure.
figures that I've read.
Sure,
so.
sure. So, I mean, and maybe there's a model somewhere else for a city the size of Charlotte
Okay.
that might be worth looking into to pull into place. But again, the politics in every city is going to be different as well.
I think so too. I think that we have certain entities that we could support. I don't think we need to create another
Too late.
nonprofit or create something else new to handle some of the homeless issues. I think what we need to do is support the men's shelter, support a lot of the entities that are already here.
But the fact is, we have supported these entities, and the problem has become worse. It's worse than it was 5 years ago.
Well, the
there are more
economics
homeless people.
I think play
Is it
into
because
that
of
a
the
great deal.
economics, or who knows? But anyway, I think we've talked a lot about this subject. We need to go on to the next topic, which actually kind of ties into this. We talked about affordable housing, and there was a whole big thing a few years ago with affordable housing trying to set up shop in Ballantyne. A lot of people were against that idea, and Bill James, the famous county commissioner, sent out an email at the end of December, encouraging people in Ballantyne to actually secede from Charlotte proper and set up their own town. And his idea was this way you can escape stuff like getting affordable housing kind of forced on you, and you can escape being governed by the liberal democratic city government. Now, the question is, if Ballantyne does actually secede, would this be a boon for Charlotte, or would it be doomed for Charlotte, or would it not even affect us? What do you think, Jack?
Well, first of all, you wouldn't be able to tax them.
Oh,
So
no.
you're going to lose that whole tax base right there.
Yes.
So what are they going to do? They're going to set up a toll road on Johnston Road, so you got to pay your tolls to come in to
like
pay
a
for the
wall.
taxes that they're going to have to make up for. I mean, really, I don't know. It's the haves and the have-nots once again. And to me, Ballantyne is part of the city. Most of that land out there was built, was from someone who was very near and dear to Charlotte.
Mm-hmm.
And I think Ballantyne was named after his wife, right?
Yeah, I believe so.
I believe Barbara Ballantyne. Yeah. So I don't know. I think that secession, first of all, is going to take forever to get
Yeah,
done.
right.
And of course, they'll cite places like Mint Hill and Pineville and Cornelius and Huntersville to say that all these are very, very similar.
Mm-hmm.
But
They were already there.
Exactly.
Those were
Exactly.
existing cities and communities and villages that were
Right.
already in place. I don't know
exactly.
that they seceded from Charlotte in order to become an entity. I think it would be a huge mistake
Why
to,
do you think that?
Well, you mentioned the tax base, obviously, but you also talking about representation, because you never want a government to be just one voice speaking for everybody that's in the room, and I think that's what it will end up coming, because I think you will end up with an uptown that has a lot of people coming from Ballantyne. Listen, these are the same people that were whining that South Carolina comes in and uses our roads and uses our infrastructure and they don't pay taxes. Well, Ballantyne, that would be the same thing. They would come into uptown, use the center city to work and play,
Right.
but they wouldn't be actually writing a check for it, and I think that would be a mistake, and I also think that they would lose representation.
Larry, I see you smiling over there, which means you got a bomb to drop.
No, it's not a bomb so much.
Okay,
No, it's not
all
a bomb so much as it's the actual structures. North Carolina's legal system is not set up to handle a de-annexation. I don't really want to talk about the possibility because that's something that a lot of folks in South Charlotte, including myself, because I live in South Charlotte and I'm from South Charlotte, went to school in South Charlotte. A lot of folks are talking about it. There's a lot of different things. There's actually a meeting on Wednesday at 5:30 with a group called SMART. It's going to be meeting with Commissioner James, Senator Rucho, City Councilman Cooksey to discuss this very issue. But I don't want to talk about the possibilities. I want to talk about why it should happen. And one of the reasons it should happen is because exactly the reason that Ms. Taboo talked about it. It's representation. It's the idea that Charlotte is not a representative of the South Charlotte area. Now, I'm a Charlottean, and I'm from Charlotte, and I like to think that I will always be a Charlottean. However, if Charlotte does not share the same values as the individuals that live in that city, and continues to attempt to force policies on South Charlotte, and continues to attempt to force zoning laws, affordable housing issues, infrastructure developments for other areas that are not in South Charlotte. The citizens of South Charlotte are going to rise up. We saw it with Charlotte-Mecklenburg schools. We saw the northern suburbs and the southern suburbs say, enough is enough. Stop taking money from this area and sending it around the city. Our job, and we're doing our jobs. We're down here working, we're commuting, we're moving into Charlotte every day to work in downtown, but we're not seeing the road developments. For example, there was an intersection right there off of Endhaven Lane that had to wait 4.5 years for a streetlight. And they had talked to the city council members, they had waited for forever, and Warren Cooksey, when he finally found out about this, when he first got into office, was able to actually get that streetlight put up. But for years, they had been ignored because they didn't have representation. And now, when you're looking at a 9-2 disparation between Democrats and Republicans on the city council, you're going to find that more South Charlotte residents are going to question the policies of Charlotte, especially when you're talking about individuals like the new city council members who are attempting to force areas of recycling and other things that perhaps the citizens of South Charlotte don't want. And there was a great editorial by Peter St. Onge, and he said that in this time you should not necessarily do what you can just to take retribution, but if the citizens of South Charlotte continue to be misrepresented in the CMS school board, in the Charlotte-Mecklenburg governmental structure, you will see an uprising, and it's something.
Let me jump in. Ballantyne, people in Ballantyne and the whole area kind of gets sort of a bad rap as being like snooty rich people. That's sort of the
They're not at all.
general
Actually, yeah.
consensus about them. I'm not
Charlotte.
saying that. I'm not saying that they are. I'm just saying people say they are. Now, would this negatively affect them? I mean, it's a great idea, and it's a great way to sort of empower yourself and rise up and all that stuff. But are they really going to get the shaft if they're not plugged into Charlotte?
Well, to be honest, no. And here's why. These folks work in downtown Charlotte. The employers are not going to let people go just because they happen to live in a new town that exists to the south of Charlotte. The tax revenue is going to be substantially less. So, in fact, you'll see folks from Charlotte more than likely move from that area down to Ballantyne because of the substantially less tax rate. And then what you'll see is Charlotte having to finally reap the whirlwind of, for years, attempting to enforce policies that are so one-sided. It's like a pendulum swing. If the pendulum continues to swing so drastically to the left that the citizens of South Charlotte continue to feel underrepresented, you'll see a possibility of this happening. Now, it's a long and arduous process, and will it happen? It depends on the individuals who lead that movement down there. But the question of ignoring the needs of Charlotte, especially South Charlotte, the needs of the Republicans in South Charlotte, is one that cannot be ignored now, and they have to be. And the members of the Charlotte City Council need to pay attention to that.
Is Ballantyne now beyond just a neighborhood?
Yes.
Oh, yeah. There's enough
Yes.
industry.
I mean, I just
down
put it
there.
out there. I I kind of know the answer to the question, but
But-
I put it out there.
Let me jump in.
And-
Let me jump in and ask you this: there are Democrats in Ballantyne. It's not everybody out there is not Republican. I would assume
know
that.
several.
So I mean, are they going to be sort of the odd man out in this deal?
Well,
or-
you see nonpartisan elections. That's the best part. You'd get away from the partisanship. Matthews, Mid-Hill, Pineville, Huntersville, Cornelius are fantastically run primarily because they are nonpartisan elections, and you don't see folks only lining up because of Democrat or Republican. Matthews and Mid-Hill are perfect examples of amalgams of government that are focused on what is in the best interest of Charlotte. I am tired of hearing individuals from the Democratic Party say, or the Republican Party for that matter, bringing national issues, abortion, homosexual marriage, those issues into city government. City government is about responsible planning for the city of Charlotte, period. It's not Republican. It's not Democrat. Stop lining up on either side. Work together for all the citizens, not just the ones that are members of your party. Work for everybody. And we're not seeing that. And that's what upsets the citizens of South Charlotte.
Is that area now big enough to split it into an additional district? Thereby,
Yes.
you're
Oh,
able to have
absolutely.
another representative.
And that's the problem, is the Democrats, when they redistricted, I think the last time they redistricted with this was in I want to say it was like 1999 when Lynn Wheeler was on the council. And Lynn Wheeler was actually the vote that cast, that created the districts you see now primarily. And you'll see 5 Democratic districts and 2 Republican districts. There are actually enough Republicans in Charlotte that they should have equal representation through the districts. But the districts are drawn based on partisan lines once again, and you're seeing partisan activity that destroys the unity that Charlotte has created over these years and will ultimately end up fracturing this city because of the way the city is set up.
All right. Well, we could go on and on about Ballantyne.
Perhaps.
I love you, Ballantyne. I go to the movie theater down there. But we're going to switch gears, and we're actually going to talk about something a little more lighthearted, but still serious.
Yeah.
Which is football.
Good.
It's all good.
Now we were talking a little bit. Now I'm not the biggest football fan, but I know you have a lot of
Yes.
knowledge and
Well.
and skill and everything else about football. And Cam Newton, right? We got a basically a full season of football behind us, and we get to kind of now survey what Cam has done. And I want to ask you, what has been the impact of Cam on Charlotte and football in general?
Well,
And you've got a prop too.
and I got a prop too. So
Let's see the prop.
you can get
Let's see
this.
the prop.
There it is, right there. That's the impact right there.
Yes.
When was the last time that, I don't know if you can get a tight shot of that. Oh, I'm over here. Okay, here we go. Cam Newton is on the cover. Cam Newton is next, and that is the ESPN Insider magazine. Tell me the last time any athlete from Charlotte, professional or otherwise, has been on the cover of any national publication. That's where the groundswell has begun to push this whole thing. And people say, you can't be an athlete in a small market like Charlotte and get national pub. You know
I don't
what?
believe that.
With that smile, and if he keeps moving the meter the way he is, Under Armour, all these other folks, I guarantee you. And the next big the next big thing that will happen is he will be the sole reason why the Panthers will be on Thursday night football, on Sunday night football, on Monday night football, and it'll be because of him. And that is the kind of thing that draws attention to a city. And they get to turn on the lights downtown, and Wachovia, the Wells building gets to light it up in Cam Newton colors.
It's a Duke building.
Oh, Duke, that's right. That's right.
Wachovia and Wells love to hear
Wells,
though
right,
because
exactly, right.
they
It's
built
Duke
it.
now, exactly.
They're the builders.
But now everybody's doing
Duke.
this.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah,
Now,
and I'm a PS. My family has PSLs too, so
Okay,
I wanted those tickets. All of a sudden became worth something.
Okay. Terry, I know you. Are you a sports fan, football fan?
I know it exists.
Okay,
and that's
all right.
about it.
That
Although
good,
I
that
have
much.
to tell you, I do know who Cam Newton is, and I
Okay.
think it's anything that gets Charlotte from the Carolina Panthers for them to understand where
Right.
Charlotte is a good thing. It's all about economic development as far as I'm concerned.
Yes.
I think that's a great thing, and I think as long as there's a cohesive team, because I don't think you can run an entire Panthers game on just Cam.
Right.
No.
As long as there's
No.
a team and everybody plays well together, and I'm still loving me some Steve Smith, so
Okay.
I'm okay with that.
Larry, what do you think?
He is-
Impact on
he-
Charlotte.
The impact on Charlotte is going to be fantastic. I can't say enough good things about this young man, and it was fantastic to see someone come into Charlotte who, because everyone knows Jerry Richardson's history. he would not draft a running African-American quarterback. That was his history, right? And to see him make that change and to hear what the conversations were and to see not only his passion for the game, because I played in high school and was very, very, very interested in college.
can tell.
Yeah, I'm a big boy.
I played too.
We'll get to that in the resolution.
I did.
But no, it's not only the economic impact, because yes, he's going to draw lots of attention to Charlotte. He's going to help the Panthers win, and that's going to be great for all the business people. But let's talk about his personality. Let's talk about his personal. There was on Thanksgiving, there was a picture on the front page of him at a homeless shelter handing out turkeys. That was the most fantastic thing I had seen in a long time from a young player who not only wants to participate in the team and be a leader and help win, but also get involved in the community. And for him to do all this, not only to show all the pundits wrong, but also all the individuals who came after him for what his history was like at Auburn, I commend this young man for being, for not wiltering under the immense scorn.
And the
Wait,
thing
let
is,
me jump in real quick because I know Jarvis is a super sports fan. I want to make sure you're not left out of the conversation, Jarvis. What do you think Cam's impact on Charlotte?
I agree with what the panel have said. We've already seen the impact of Cam Newton being not only the number one draft pick, which brought a level of excitement and credibility and anticipation. And he delivered this season. He broke several records, not only rookie records, but quarterback records. He's in one season, in his first season, rushed for more touchdowns than any quarterback, in a season. And we're going to see that not only through spring training and in the summer, the excitement and anticipation about what will Cam Newton do in his second year, what will he do when one of the team is healthy, when Geddes is back, and what if they draft a wide receiver. I think they should draft Alshon Jeffrey from my alma mater, Gamecocks.
See what I'm saying?
But I think not only that, and then I think one of the most important thing is going to come in the form of Monday Night Football games. We haven't had a Monday Night Football game in Charlotte at all in this past season. Can't remember the season before, because the team wasn't fun to watch. So I think with Cam Newton, we can expect to see at least one, if not two, Monday Night Football games and a couple of primetime games. So it's going to be exciting for the city.
Right, Jarvis.
yeah,
Jack?
I think the impact, more to your point, goes beyond the football field. And that's what this community needs. It needs a role model. It needs a positive role model. So folks can latch on to this guy. They see his smile. And the thing about Cam, and I don't think I'm wrong on this, I think he gets it.
Yes, he does.
I think he understands that. And also, who is the greatest, the most well-known athlete of his time who works in this city?
Jordan.
Thank you. So who
One from
else?
Chicago, so
Right. So in that sense, he's got somebody who I know at some point he has aspired to be one way or another, be it through his athletic prowess, his name recognition, his brand, so forth and so on. Who better to have right here in your own backyard to be able to pick up the phone and say, hey, Mike, can you help me out on this one, man? And I guarantee you, Mike says, yeah, come on down, son. We'll talk about this for a little bit. Let me show you. And Mike's made a few mistakes of his own through today, so he can learn how to be whatever it is he wants to be and then do it his way.
That's right. It's an exciting time for Charlotte sports. For the first time in years, we're seeing renewed interest in the Bobcats with Michael Jordan's, the changes he's made. It's going to be a shortened season, but we have to look forward to the next season. And with Cam Newton and the way the Panthers are playing, you still want to kick the GM in the head every now and again for calling runs on 3rd and 12, but at the same time, it's like, come on, you see progress, and that's what we're about. Slowly making the right, because it's not going to happen overnight.
No.
Slowly making the right steps forward.
Well, Larry, you actually brought something up that I want to touch on a little bit. Cam is African American, and is black African American quarterbacks is not necessarily a common thing. It hasn't been in the past, and not really in the present. But his race has not really been an issue. Nobody has really talked about his race,
Which is good.
And that's the question.
That's fantastic.
Is that a good
Yeah.
thing? Are we making
No, it's
progress
Absolutely.
now?
Absolutely.
Okay.
And there have been enough examples. Well, there haven't been a ton of examples, but there have been folks. Michael Vick went through what he went through. But you've had folks like the Donovan McNabbs and the Randall Cunninghams, and I say that because I spent some time with those guys when I was working in Philadelphia. But the fact that has not become that much of an issue, I think speaks volumes. And the other test will be, during this off season, this age with the BlackBerries and the camera phones and all the stuff going on, you don't hear anything about him hanging out in the nightclubs. You don't hear anything of, see these, crazy pictures of him doing something, and hey, we were all 20-something, and we probably got a few things we'd like to forget about.
Oh, yeah.
But imagine, that he's 1,000 times more what we ever were or would be.
Yes.
And the potential for trouble is around the corner. And that's the other thing that I hope and think that he gets, that he surrounds himself with enough good people, stays out of harm's way in terms of, bad social practices,
Right.
so to speak.
Well, you're being so PC.
I'm trying to, just walk the straight and narrow, have fun. I mean, he's
Absolutely.
a
Right.
kid, so
Well,
hey, have a
let's
good time.
hope for the best. Let's hope for the best. We're gonna cut this portion of the conversation off. We're gonna go to our commentary. We've got Jarvis with the weekly commentary.
Now that the year is 2012, the talk of the Democratic National Convention is really going to dominate conversations in Charlotte. I follow the topic closely in news and even write a blog about the DNC for charlottemagazine.com. But I, perhaps like you, had started to grow a little weary of all the talk about this week-long event that was still many months away. But we haven't seen anything yet. The amount of national news coverage that surrounded last week's Iowa Republican caucus was overwhelming, to say the least. It was the dominant topic of reporting by the 24-hour cable news networks throughout the month of December on through the January 3rd Judgment Day. Morning, afternoon, and evening news programs were broadcasted from coffee houses, diners, and taverns in Iowa cities. Reporters descended on small-town folks as if there had been a nuclear explosion in their backyards. After running rampant in Iowa, the press is now occupying New Hampshire. Wait, let me not have you confuse that with the Occupy movement. The national press has taken over the streets of Manchester and other cities in New Hampshire, which holds its Republican primary this Tuesday. Then they'll be off to South Carolina. See, politics has become the new popular reality television genre. And just like all of the housewives shows, singing competitions, programs searching for the next model, chef, or toddler in a tiara, it comes a point when everybody's doing it because everybody's doing it. When it was announced nearly a year ago that Charlotte would host the 2012 Democratic National Convention, it was projected that 10,000 members of the media would come here for the week of September 3rd. Not only do I believe that number could become larger, just think about what it would be like to have 10,000 journalists roaming around a city that most of them aren't familiar with, telling stories of what it's like here. They will surely broadcast from bars and restaurants at Epicenter and NC Music Factory, from neighborhood joints in Plaza Midwood and Noda. I can see Morning Joe, hey Mika, setting up shop at Amelie's. Bloggers will be on their laptops and iPads on the benches along Tryon Street, in front of the Cultural Arts Campus, at light rail stops, documenting the action. All of this media attention will be great for Charlotte. I'll be the first to agree with that. People from around the country might want to live here or at least visit after seeing our beautiful uptown skyline and southern charm. Well, that depends on how the Daily Show and the Colbert Report portray us. But jokes aside, it will be tremendous publicity for the city and the opportunity for us to see some of the biggest stars and political figures in the world up close. It'll be the chance for the Democrats to celebrate and rally around the president and ramp up for the fourth quarter of what will be the most contentious presidential election in history. But after the last piece of confetti has been swept up from the floor of Time Warner Cable Arena, after a cab has dropped off the final delegate at the airport, let's just hope we're able to actually enjoy the party we got so worked up about, and that no one has to make a walk of shame the morning after.
All right, welcome back. Thank you, Jarvis, again for that great weekly commentary. We're going to wrap up the show now. This is what I call the lightning round, folks. Lightning round. What is going to make Charlotte better in 2012? That's the big question. It's sort of everybody has personal resolutions, you know. Larry, you was mentioning something about a personal
I got to lose some of this
resolution.
weight now. Oh, man, I put
Join the
on
club.
way too much
Join
weight.
the club. But what is the resolution for Charlotte? What are some things that could happen that you want to see happen to make Charlotte better? And I'll start with you, Jack.
I'd just like to hope that the momentum leading up to the convention is that Charlotte embraces it, understands what it can mean for the city, but also after the convention. And I think somewhere in between there, people have to understand that there are going to be highs and lows. Everybody's not going to get the piece of the pie that they think they're going to get, you know, in terms of small businesses, unfortunately, because that's just the way it is. But that Charlotte becomes something, that Charlotte begins to find an identity. Because if people, come to me, and I'm a native Charlottean too, and they ask me what Charlotte is, I can't say, we're a city of neighborhoods, or we're this or that. We're a banking center. We're, financial. We have some arts. There's no clear definition. If somebody, you're supposed to give somebody an elevator speech in 30 seconds to tell them what Charlotte is. Hopefully in 2012, we'll begin to have some kind of identity, some sort of clear-cut identity as to what Charlotte's about.
All right, Terry.
Well, I thought about this because you gave us a little heads up it was
That's
coming.
right, I did.
And I kind of disagree with you a little bit. I kind of think that Charlotte is a teenage Chicago. It has that, we
Yeah?
can make it happen.
need more
we
mob-
can get it
mafia
done.
stuff.
No. We can get it done. We're like the city of big shoulders, only a smaller version. We're a little teenage. Anyway, we've got audacious goals, and I think we set them and we go for them and we win because I think we do have the ability to gather a group to support. But I wish that we would, my hope for 2012 is, we've got the DNC coming, but it's not the last thing that's going to happen in Charlotte. I want us to start utilizing and supporting what we have here in Charlotte, recognizing what we've got here, utilizing things like the Charlotte International Cabinet if we're going to be a world-class city, recognize that there is a great international group here in Charlotte that we need to support. Things like the businessresource.com to help small businesses to be able to help businesses grow and get started. I'd like us to recognize what we have here, support those entities no matter what form they're in, and help just elevate them to the next level.
All right, Terry. Larry.
Well, one of the things that I would absolutely love to see is it's happened more in the business community and in the social community, but in political scenes it's become more prevalent lately. Is more of an integration, not just on racial lines, but along political lines. No one in South Charlotte wants to leave Charlotte. Charlotte is a fantastic city with so much to offer, and it has done so well in the past 40 years. But when you're talking about the ability of people to work together and the ability of people to find common ground, nationally, it's not happening like we would want it to. In the state level, you can see the General Assembly, it's not happening the way we would want it to. What we need to do here in Charlotte, because Charlotte has been a can-do city, and it's not just a can-do city, it's a will-do city. But the only reason it's been able to do those things, it's because people have come together and they've decided to make it happen. If we continue to draw divisive lines down each other's characteristics, especially politically, we're not going to see the same type of come-together environment that we've seen. It'll be more divisive. So one of my resolutions is to see Charlotte find ways to work together much more inclusively as opposed to exclusively.
All right, Larry. I actually think Jarvis has some Twitter comments on this subject.
Actually, these are some that were shared on Facebook. Some of our viewers shared their New Year's resolutions for Charlotte. Andrew Swistack says, stay classy. Mary Herbert Curtin Love says, bring more small businesses, including retail, downtown. This would make it more interesting for tourists as well as residents. J.R. Hobson says, finish 485, start the Monroe Bypass, and bring the light rail to UNCC. And finally, Jeff Sanders says, enact a tree protection plan. That's one of the most beautiful things about that city. It's always fun to see 40 acres cleared for a strip mall, fast food, gas station.
Okay.
We have a tree protection plan. Unfortunately, it's keeping us from developing. But that's a topic for another time.
Okay, see? Drop the bomb at the end.
Right at the end.
Well, that's it. Thank you guys for joining us. Larry Shaheen, Terry DeBoo, Jack Brayboy. Appreciate you coming by. And thank you, folks at home or wherever you are watching the show. Check us out next week or the next installment of 282.